The wind screamed across the white wasteland, carrying blades of snow that cut into the skin like knives. The land was buried under endless ice, and the night sky was heavy with gray clouds, hiding the moon and stars. It was a night when no one should be outside, not even the strongest man or beast. Inside a small wooden cabin, a human sat near the fire. He pulled his coat tighter around him, listening to the storm hammering the walls. The old cabin shook, but it had survived many winters, and he trusted it would survive this one too. Yet his eyes kept looking at the door, as if something beyond the blizzard was calling to him. Then it came, a faint sound almost lost in the storm. At first he thought it was the cry of the wind, but then he heard it again. A weak voice, broken, desperate. He stood up quickly, his boots heavy on the wooden floor. He opened the door just a little, and the freezing air rushed inside, making the fire behind him flicker. Through the white curtain of snow he saw a shape on the ground. A body barely moving. He hesitated, his breath catching in his chest. In this world, strangers could mean danger, but leaving someone to die in the snow felt worse than any danger. He stepped out, the wind biting at his face. He pushed through the storm until he reached her. A woman, or something like one. Her skin was pale with a faint blue glow under it, strange patterns like frozen rivers across her arms. Her lips were trembling, her eyes half closed. She was not human. He knew that instantly. Still, he bent down and lifted her. She was light, too light. As if she had not eaten for days, her body was cold like ice, colder than any human body should be. He carried her back to the cabin, kicking the door closed behind him. The fire hissed as the storm followed them inside. He laid her near the fire, covering her with a thick blanket. For a moment he just stared at her. The glow on her skin seemed to pulse with her shallow breaths. She looked fragile and dangerous at the same time. He poured water into a metal cup and held it to her lips. At first she did not move, then slowly she sipped, her throat moving with effort. Her eyes opened just a little, and he saw them, bright silver, shining like the surface of frozen lakes. She whispered something, the words broken, hard to understand, but he caught two of them clearly, cold. Please. His chest tightened. He moved the fire closer, feeding it with more wood until the flames grew. She turned slightly, her hands reaching for the heat like a child reaching for safety. He could see her fingers trembling, not just from the cold but from exhaustion. The human sat back, watching her carefully. He had seen many things in this world, traders, wanderers, even raiders from the mountains, but never had he seen someone like her. She was alien, not just in body but in presence. She carried an air of mystery, like the storm itself had dropped her at his door. Hours passed, the storm outside grew louder, shaking the cabin, but inside the fire held strong. The alien woman's breathing became slower, steadier. She was not safe yet, but she was alive. That was something. The human leaned his head against the wall, his thoughts racing. He had broken an unspoken rule by bringing her in. His people did not trust outsiders, and aliens even less. To them, aliens were threats, dangerous beings that brought trouble. If they found out, they would call him a fool, or worse. But as he watched her lying there, wrapped in the blanket, her silver eyes flickering open now and then, he felt something he could not explain. It was not fear, not exactly pity. It was a strange pull, as if fate had placed her in his path. Then, just before sleep claimed him, he heard her whisper again, this time more clearly, "Don't let them take me." The human's eyes snapped open, but when he looked, she was already drifting back into unconsciousness. The words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. Who were they? Why was she running? The storm roared on and the night stretched long. But one thing was certain now. The moment he carried her inside, his life was no longer his own. Something far greater had begun, hidden in the night of ice. The storm finally grew weaker by morning. Though the land outside was still covered in white, the human pushed open the door and saw only endless snow, piled high against the cabin walls. The world looked silent, frozen, and lifeless, but inside, the silence was broken by the sound of shallow breathing. He turned toward the bed where the alien woman lay, her skin still pale, though the faint blue glow under her skin pulsed like slow lightning. The blanket around her was thick and near the fire. Her body no longer shook violently. She had survived the night. He felt relief, though his heart carried questions heavier than the snow outside. Slowly her eyes opened, silver eyes sharp but weak, looking at him with confusion and fear. She tried to rise, but her strength failed her. He hurried to her side, pressing a hand gently against her shoulder. "Rest," he said softly. His voice was calm, though inside, he wondered if she understood him at all. Her lips moved, trying to form words. Her voice cracked, low and uneven. "Warm? Safe?" she asked in broken English. The sound of her voice caught him by surprise. She could speak, though not fluently. He nodded, placing another piece of wood into the fire. "You are safe," he replied. But even as he spoke, he knew it was not fully true. Her gaze stayed on him, studying his face as if measuring his words. She clutched the blanket tighter, her hands trembling. The glow along her arms dimmed and brightened with each shaky breath. He noticed she avoided looking at the window, her eyes always lowering when the wind whistled through the cracks. It was as if she feared something more than the storm. He offered her a cup of warm broth. She took it with both hands, sipping slowly. Every movement seemed to drain her, yet she forced herself to drink when she finished. She whispered a faint, "Thank you." Her voice carried an echo of sadness, like someone who had been forced to beg for kindness too many times. The human sat across from her, his chair creaking, his eyes never left her. He wanted to ask who she was, where she came from, why she had nearly frozen to death in the snow. But he held his questions, sensing that pressing her too soon might break the fragile trust forming between them. Hours passed in uneasy silence. The fire snapped, the storm groaned, and she lay there silent, her silver eyes drifting shut now and then. Once he thought she had fallen asleep, but when he looked again, he found her watching him, always watching, as though she feared he might vanish if she blinked. Finally, he asked the question that burned in his chest. "Why were you out there?" His voice was low but steady. For a moment she did not answer, her lips pressed together, her hands clutched the blanket so tightly her knuckles turned white. Then she shook her head, whispering, "No. Cannot tell." The human frowned, his instincts screamed danger. But another part of him whispered that her silence was not a lie. It was fear. She wasn't refusing because she wanted to hide something. She was refusing because telling him might put him in danger too. He leaned back in his chair, staring at the flames. "You don't have to tell me," he said at last. "But know this, if you stay here, you'll be safe." The words surprised even him. He had no reason to offer her protection. She was a stranger, an alien, and maybe even a fugitive. Yet the promise left his lips before he could stop it. For the first time, her expression changed. Her silver eyes softened, her lips parted slightly, as if she wanted to say more, but instead she whispered only one word. "Why?" The question cut deep. He had no simple answer. He could not explain why he carried her in, why he risked his safety for someone unknown. Perhaps it was because leaving her in the snow felt like leaving himself there, cold and hopeless. Perhaps it was because, in her trembling voice, he heard the same loneliness that haunted him for years. As night returned, he set a lantern near her bed. The storm had ended, but the silence outside was darker than before. He checked his rifle, setting it against the wall. The habit of a man who had lived too long in dangerous places. Later, as the fire dimmed, he heard her murmur again, words barely audible. "They will come," he turned sharply. "Who?" he asked, but her eyes closed. Her breathing slowed. She had fallen asleep, or maybe she pretended to. The words hung heavy in the cabin. "They will come." The human stared into the fire. His hand gripped the rifle. The silent stranger had survived, but with her came shadows he could not yet see, and in his heart, he knew. His cabin was no longer just a shelter. It was now a secret, a hiding place, and perhaps the center of a storm greater than the snow outside. The cabin was quiet, too quiet. The storm had passed, leaving behind a silence that pressed against the walls. The human sat by the fire, his rifle close at hand. The alien woman slept on the bed, her breathing steady, her glowing skin faint under the blanket. He tried to rest, but his thoughts refused to sleep. Her words kept echoing in his mind. "They will come." He stared at the flames, wondering who they were, wondering if he had brought danger upon himself by helping her. Hours stretched like days. The only sounds were the crackling of the fire and the soft whistle of wind seeping through the cracks. Then, just as he began to drift into uneasy rest, he heard movement. His eyes snapped open, his hand reached for the rifle, but it wasn't an intruder. It was her. The alien woman sat up slowly, the blanket falling from her shoulders. Her glowing patterns were brighter now. Reflecting in the firelight like rivers of blue ice, she moved closer to the flames. her silver eyes shining with something between fear and longing. He watched her carefully. She hadn't noticed him awake yet. Her hands trembled as she reached toward the fire, but she stopped just short of touching the flames. Her body shook, her breath quickened. It looked as if she wanted warmth but also feared the fire deeply. Finally, she whispered words in her broken English, soft but sharp enough for him to hear. Fire. Dangerous. For me. The human sat up straighter. She turned her head, startled to see him awake. For a moment she looked like a cornered animal, ready to run, though there was nowhere to go. He lifted a hand slowly, calming. It's all right, he said gently. The fire will not harm you here. Her eyes darted to the flames, then back to him. For you. Safe, she whispered. For me. Not safe. She pressed her hand against her arm, and the glow under her skin flickered like lightning trapped beneath her flesh. He frowned, unease curling inside him. Something about her was more than strange, it was dangerous. But not in the way raiders or soldiers were dangerous. This was something deeper, something tied to her very being. He moved closer, keeping his voice calm. Who are you? He asked. What are you hiding? Her lips trembled. She looked at him as though fighting an inner war. Finally, she shook her head, whispering, I cannot. Say if I tell, you die too. His grip tightened on the rifle, though he did not lift it. Die from what? He asked. His voice was quiet but sharp. She turned back to the fire, her silver eyes reflecting the flames. For a long moment she said nothing. Then slowly, she pulled something from beneath her clothing. It was small, no larger than his palm, a device of metal and crystal glowing faintly blue. It hummed softly, alive with energy. She held it as if it burned her, her hands shaking. The human's chest tightened. He had seen nothing like it before. It was not human-made, not even close. He leaned forward, his voice tense. What is that? She closed her eyes, clutching the device close. Curse, she whispered. They fear it, they hunt me. Because of this, the fire popped loudly, making her flinch. She pulled the blanket tighter around herself, her body small and fragile against the shadowed wall. The human stared at her, the flames flickering across his face. A curse, she had called it. But he knew curses were only names given to things people did not understand. And if others hunted her for it, then she carried something powerful, something dangerous enough to draw death to his very door. His voice lowered, heavy. If they come, and they find you here, what will they do to me? Her silver eyes met his, guilt and sorrow shining in them. They kill you, she whispered without hesitation. They kill anyone near me. The words cut deep. He sat back, his breath heavy. So it was true. By saving her, he had stepped into danger far beyond the storm. Yet when he looked at her again, trembling, clutching the strange device, he felt something stronger than fear. It was pity and something more. She was not just dangerous, she was alone. She was hunted, broken yet still clinging to life. He leaned forward, his voice steady. Then we'll have to make sure they don't find you. Her lips parted. Shocked, for the first time, a flicker of hope passed over her face. She shook her head quickly. No, I bring death. But he only tightened his jaw. Maybe, he said, but I won't throw you back into the snow. The firelight cast their shadows long on the wall. The silence returned, but it was heavier now, filled with secrets unspoken and choices yet to be made. The alien woman held the glowing device close, her eyes drifting shut, but before sleep claimed her, she whispered faint words into the fire. You will regret helping me. The human sat there long after she slept, staring into the flames, his rifle in his lap, his heart torn between fear and resolve. Whatever secrets she carried, whatever power burned inside her, it had now become his burden too. And as the fire dimmed, he knew the night was only the beginning. The next morning, the snow outside lay heavy and white. The storm had passed but left the land silent and empty. The human opened the door to check the world beyond. A sharp wind bit his face, and all he saw was endless white stretching into the horizon. No footprints, no signs of life, only silence. He closed the door slowly and turned back. The alien woman sat by the fire, the blanket still around her shoulders. Her silver eyes followed him closely. Her face was calm, but her trembling hands betrayed her fear. The strange device was no longer in her grip. He noticed it hidden beneath her folded clothes near the bed, glowing faintly even under layers of fabric. He poured water into a pot, heating it above the flames. The smell of boiled herbs filled the cabin. When he handed her a cup, she hesitated before taking it. Her thin fingers brushed against his hand, cold as ice. She sipped, whispering, "Warm." The single word carried relief and sadness together. For a long time, silence filled the room again. But the human could no longer keep his questions buried. He leaned forward, his voice calm but sharp. "You said they will come, you said they fear you, why?" Her silver eyes lifted to meet his. They glimmered in the firelight, and for a moment, he thought she would stay silent again. But then her lips parted, and her broken words spilled into the air. "Because of power inside me," the human frowned. His grip on the cup tightened. "Power?" he asked. She nodded slowly, touching her arm where the glowing lines ran beneath her skin. The blue light pulsed faintly, alive. "Not wanted," she whispered. "Not chosen. It was given. Forced." Her eyes lowered, her voice barely rising above the crackle of the fire. "My people, afraid they call me cursed dangerous, they sent hunters, I run." Always the human's chest grew heavy. He studied the glowing patterns under her skin. Each flicker seemed to match the rhythm of her heart. "What happens when you use it?" he asked. She shook her head quickly, fear in her eyes. "Not safe. For me, for you, for all." She held her arms close, trembling. "I try to hide it, but sometimes it burns through." As if to prove her words, the glow on her arms suddenly brightened. A sharp pulse like lightning under her flesh, she gasped, clutching her wrist. Her body shook as though the light inside was trying to escape. The human stepped forward, his voice strong. "Stop, calm down." He reached for her arm but paused, unsure if touching her would harm him. The glow flickered wildly. The air itself seemed to hum with energy. For a heartbeat, the fire bent sideways as if pulled by invisible wind. Then, just as suddenly, the glow dimmed. Fading back into her skin, she dropped her head into her hands. Her breath ragged, her voice broke. "This is why they fear me, this is why they hunt me, power not meant to exist." The human stood frozen. His cabin, his quiet life had become something else entirely. He stared at her trembling form, his heart torn between fear and pity. The firelight flickered across her silver eyes, showing him a girl who carried both curse and gift. After a long silence, he spoke. "If they fear you, then they'll stop at nothing, hunters, soldiers. They'll come here," she nodded weakly. "Yes." Her voice was little more than a breath. "If they know you die too." His jaw tightened. He should have felt regret. He should have wished he never opened his door. Yet as he looked at her, fragile, broken, carrying a power she never asked for, he felt something else. It was not regret, it was responsibility. "You didn't choose this," he said firmly. "That means it's not your fault. You don't deserve to die for it." Her eyes widened, shimmering with a light he had not seen before. "Hope." Faint and trembling, she whispered. "Why? You care? Human not know me, human should throw me out." He gave a bitter half-smile. "Maybe I should, but I won't." His voice was steady now, stronger than before. "You need someone to stand beside you, and whether you like it or not, that's me." The cabin grew quiet again, but the silence was no longer empty. It was filled with the weight of unspoken promises. The alien woman lowered her gaze, clutching the blanket tighter, but her lips curved just slightly, not in a smile, but in something close to relief. That night, as the fire dimmed, the human lay awake, staring at the roof beams. Her words haunted him. Power inside me. He did not know what kind of power she carried, but he had seen enough to know it was real. He had also seen her fear of it, her sorrow, her guilt, and deep inside, a thought whispered to him. If her power was feared by her people, what would happen if others discovered it? Not just to her, but to him, to anyone who stood near her. The firelight flickered weakly, casting shadows across the cabin walls, and in that dim light, he heard her whisper again, this time not in fear but in exhaustion. "If I stay, you cannot turn back." The human closed his eyes, his hand resting on the rifle beside him. He knew she was right, there was no turning back. He had given refuge to something the galaxy feared, and sooner or later, whispers of her power would draw enemies to his door. But he also knew one more thing. As long as she was under his roof, he would not abandon her, no matter the cost. The snow had softened by morning, though the cold still wrapped the land like a heavy blanket. The human stepped outside briefly, his boots sinking deep into the white ground. The air was sharp, every breath stung his chest. He scanned the horizon, but everything looked empty, too empty. When he returned to the cabin, the alien woman was awake, sitting near the fire. Her silver eyes were fixed on the door as though she expected it to burst open at any moment. She held the blanket close to her shoulders, her glowing patterns faint but restless under her skin. "You are afraid," the human said quietly. She turned toward him, her lips trembling as if she wanted to deny it. But her silence told him the truth. He sat down, his rifle resting against his knee. "Who are they?" he asked again. "The ones who will come?" Her gaze lowered, her voice shaking. "Hunters, soldiers, they not stop. They want me gone. They find me always." His jaw tightened. A part of him wanted to believe she was wrong, that maybe the storm had hidden her trail, but his instincts whispered otherwise. Danger was not far. The day passed slowly. The human kept himself busy chopping wood, checking the cabin walls, listening to the stillness of the land. Every small sound made him alert. Every shadow across the snow felt like a threat. Inside, the alien woman remained silent, her body curled near the fire, as if she carried a weight too heavy to speak. By nightfall, the silence shattered. A sound echoed across the snow, sharp and distant, boots crunching, voices carried by the wind. The human froze at the door, his heart racing. He leaned against the wooden frame, listening closely. Yes, they were coming. More than one, moving carefully. He rushed inside, his voice low and urgent. "They're here." The alien woman's eyes widened, her silver gaze filling with dread. "Hide me," she whispered, almost begged. He pulled her to her feet, guiding her quickly to the cellar beneath the floorboards. It was dark and narrow. Filled with old tools and supplies, she squeezed inside, her glowing skin dimming as if even her body tried to disappear. He lowered the wooden cover and spread a rug over it. Hiding the entrance, the cabin grew still again. Except for the sound of his own pounding heartbeat, a knock thundered against the door. Loud, demanding. The human grabbed his rifle. Setting it beside him, he opened the door slowly. The wind carried snowflakes inside, and with them came three figures, tall and armored, their faces hidden by metal masks. Their weapons gleamed in the lantern light. "Human," one of them growled, his voice deep and cold. "We search." The human kept his face calm, though his blood burned. "Search for what?" he asked. The soldier stepped forward, snow dripping from his boots. "A fugitive, a cursed one. She is near. You will give her." The human tightened his grip on the rifle but kept it lowered. His voice was steady. "No one came here. The storm was too strong. Only a fool would wander in it." The soldiers exchanged glances, one of them moving toward the bed, another peering into the corners of the cabin. Their boots thudded against the wooden floor, each step heavier than the last. Below in the cellar, the alien woman pressed her hands against her mouth. Her body trembling, she could hear the voices above her, the heavy steps, the scrape of metal against wood. Her heart pounded so loudly she feared they would hear it through the floor. The human's eyes followed the soldiers carefully. When one bent down to lift the rug near the cellar, he stepped forward quickly, his voice sharp. "Stay away from there." The soldier straightened, his mask turning toward him. "Why?" The voice hissed. The human's rifle was still against his leg, his hand resting near it. "Because," he said firmly, "that is where I keep my food. You open it, you break it, you pay for it." For a moment, the soldier seemed ready to strike him down. The air inside the cabin grew heavy, filled with tension sharp enough to cut. Then the leader lifted a hand, stopping his men. His voice was low, suspicious. "If you hide her, we burn your home. We burn you with it." The human's stare did not break. He let the silence stretch, then said, "Then look outside. Do you see any tracks leading here?" "Only mine, only wood for fire. You waste your time." The soldiers stood still, the crackle of the fire filling the air between them. Finally, the leader turned, his voice rough. "If she is here, human, you die with her." They stepped back into the snow, their boots crunching as they disappeared into the white. The door closed and the cabin fell into silence again. The human let out the breath he had been holding. His hands trembled for the first time that night. He bent down quickly, pulling the rug aside and lifting the wooden cover. The alien woman crawled out, her body shaking. Her silver eyes were wet, her lips whispering, "You risked everything." He nodded, setting the cover back in place. "They'll be back," he said grimly. "Next time. They won't leave so easily." She clutched his arm, her touch cold but desperate. "I must go. I bring death here." He looked at her, his jaw tight. Or maybe, he said, you bring a fight worth facing. The fire burned low, casting long shadows across their faces. Outside, the hunters faded into the storm. But their return was certain. The cabin was no longer just a shelter. It had become the heart of a war neither of them had chosen. The cabin was quiet after the soldiers left. But the silence was not peace, it was heavy, filled with fear. The human sat near the fire, his rifle across his knees. His eyes stayed fixed on the door. He knew the soldiers would return. They never searched once and gave up. They would circle back stronger. The alien woman sat near the corner, her blanket wrapped tightly around her thin frame. Her silver eyes were wide, her glowing patterns faint. She whispered, "They come again, stronger. More soldiers, more weapons." The human nodded, his face hard. "Yes," he said. "They will not stop until they have you." Her hands trembled as she pulled the strange device closer to her chest. The glow under her skin pulsed brighter, restless like it wanted to escape. "You should send me out," she whispered, her voice weak. "If I leave, you live. If I stay, you die." He looked at her sharply. "No," he said firmly. "I will not throw you to the cold. They will hunt you down. They will kill you." Her silver eyes filled with sorrow. "Better me than you," she said. The human leaned forward, his voice steady. "Listen to me. I made my choice when I carried you inside. You are not alone now, for the first time." She looked away, tears shining in her eyes. She pressed her hand against her arm, the blue light flickering wildly. "You don't understand," she whispered. "When I lose control, I destroy, I break everything near me." The human frowned. He had seen glimpses of her power, but he did not know its full truth. He wanted to ask more, but before he could, a sound shook the cabin, voices outside, boots crunching against the snow. The hunters had returned. The human's heart pounded. He lifted his rifle, loading it quickly. His eyes darted to her. "Hide again," he said. She shook her head violently. "No," she whispered. "This time, no hiding." The door burst open, snow rushing inside with the shadows of armored figures. More soldiers than before, their masks gleaming in the firelight. Weapons raised, their leader stepped forward, his voice like iron. "The cursed one is here, human. Step aside or die with her." The human raised his rifle, aiming steadily. His voice was calm but strong. "You'll have to kill me first." The soldiers moved forward. Weapons pointed at him. He knew he could not take them all. His finger pressed against the trigger, ready for the fight that would end him. But then before he could fire, the air changed. A humming sound filled the cabin, low at first, then rising into a sharp, crackling roar. The alien woman stood, her blanket falling away. The glow under her skin spread like fire. Her silver eyes shone so brightly they looked like burning stars. The soldiers froze, their weapons shaking. One shouted, "Stop her!" But it was too late. The power inside her erupted. A wave of blue light burst out, shaking the cabin walls. The fire bent sideways. The wooden beams groaned. The snow outside lifted into the air like a rising storm. The soldiers stumbled, their armor glowing under the strange energy. Weapons flew from their hands, crashing against the walls. One screamed as his mask cracked under the force. The human shielded his eyes, the light burning across his skin like icy fire. His heart pounded with fear and awe. He had seen battles, storms and death, but never this. The alien woman raised her hands, her voice trembling but strong. "Leave him. Leave this place. Or I destroy all." The soldiers scrambled back, shouting to one another. Fear broke their courage. They rushed out into the snow, leaving their weapons behind. Their leader turned one last time, his mask cracked, his voice full of hate. "You doom yourself, girl. They will send more. Stronger than us." Then he vanished into the storm. The cabin shook as the light dimmed. The power inside her faded. She gasped, falling to her knees, her silver eyes dulled. Her glowing skin flickered weakly. The human rushed to her side, catching her before she collapsed. Her body felt cold, too cold. Her voice was faint, broken. "I told you. I bring death." He held her tightly, his voice steady. "No, you brought life. You saved me." Her eyes closed, tears slipping down her cheeks. "I doomed you now," she whispered. "They know you stand with me." The human tightened his grip. His heart heavy, he knew she was right. The soldiers would not give up, more would come, stronger. And now they would see him as an enemy too. But he also knew one thing more. He would not abandon her, not after what she had done. not after the choice he had already made. He looked at the shattered walls of the cabin, the broken weapons scattered on the floor, the snow swirling outside. His voice was low, steady. Then let them come. The alien woman stirred weakly in his arms, her silver eyes opening just enough to see him. For the first time since he found her, she gave a faint, trembling smile. The fire burned low. The storm outside howled, but inside something stronger had been born. A bond sealed not by words but by her unexpected act. An act that had changed everything. The cabin stood broken after the storm of power. The walls cracked, the shelves thrown down, weapons scattered across the floor. The human sat near the fire with the alien woman resting in his arms. Her breath came shallow, her silver eyes half closed, her glowing skin faint like dying embers. He placed a hand on her shoulder gently. "Rest," he whispered, but she shook her head weakly. "No rest, they come again, stronger, more soldiers. More hunters, I cannot stay, you must let me go." His jaw tightened. His eyes hardened as he looked at her fragile frame. "If you walk out there now, you will die. If you stay, maybe we stand a chance." She blinked slowly, her eyes filled with sorrow. "Why risk everything for me? You owe me nothing." He leaned closer, his voice steady but heavy with truth. "Because when I found you in the snow, I saw more than a stranger. I saw someone the world left to die. And I will not let the world take you again." Her lips parted, but no words came. A tear slid down her cheek, glowing faintly in the firelight. She lowered her head, whispering, "If you choose me, you choose death." He looked at her firmly. "No, if I choose you, I choose life. Your life, our fight. Our chance." Before she could answer, a distant sound shook the air. Drums of boots, the metallic grind of war machines. The hunters had not given up. This time they brought an army. The human stood, lifting his rifle. His face was calm, though his heart thundered. He looked at her. "Can you fight?" She shook her head slowly, her body trembling. "If I use power again, I break, I burn, I cannot control, I destroy." He reached down, taking her cold hand into his. "Then don't fight alone. If you fall, I will hold you up. If you burn, I will burn with you. But we face this together." Her silver eyes widened, staring at him as if she had never seen anything like him before. Slowly she nodded, her glowing lines flickering brighter with fragile strength. The sound outside grew louder. Shadows moved across the snow. Dozens of soldiers marched, weapons raised. Their leader's voice echoed through the night. "Give us the cursed one, human. Stand aside and live. Or die with her." The human stepped into the doorway. Rifle raised, the cold wind cut across his face. But his voice was steady. "She is under my roof if you want her. You go through me." The soldiers spread out, their weapons glowing. Their leader laughed darkly. "Then you will die first." But before the first shot could be fired, the alien woman stepped beside him. Her hand slipped into his, her glowing patterns flaring. Her voice was soft but firm. "Not him, not alone. With me." The soldiers hesitated, the air around her shimmered. The snow lifting again like dust in a storm. Her power stirred. But this time it was not wild, not uncontrolled. The human's grip steadied her, grounding the storm within her. Together they stood. Human and alien, light and shadow. The first soldier charged, but the human's rifle cracked. Dropping him into the snow, another raised his weapon. But a wave of blue energy burst from her skin, bending the shot away. The battlefield turned into chaos, but through it all, they stood side by side, covering each other. Hours seemed to pass in moments when the last soldier fled into the storm. Silence fell again. The snow was red, the weapons scattered. The human lowered his rifle, his chest heaving. The alien woman collapsed against him. Her strength gone, he caught her gently, lowering her to the ground. Her silver eyes flickered weakly. Why did you choose me?" He looked down at her, his voice steady. "Because you're worth choosing." Her lips curved into a faint smile, fragile but real. Her glowing skin pulsed once more. Not with chaos, but with warmth, she whispered. "Then, I am not cursed, not anymore." The human lifted her into his arms and carried her back into the broken cabin. The fire inside still burned, small but alive. He laid her near it, covering her with the blanket once more. He sat beside her, his rifle close, his eyes on the door, outside. The storm howled again, but inside there was something stronger than fear, something born from his choice, a bond unbroken by danger. The alien woman reached for his hand one last time before sleep claimed her. Her voice was faint, but the words carried power. "Together, The human squeezed her hand gently. Together, he whispered back, and in that moment, he knew her unexpected act had not just saved him. It had changed him. It had changed everything.